Okay, ladies and gentlemen of Hands-on Rapid Prototyping, as promised, we were going to follow up on the lecture that we had on Monday about crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, and outsourcing, and we didn't quite get to crowdfunding, so we're going to go cover that right now. And we're going to also address a couple of the crowdfunding sites that were brought up in class, which I thought was pretty cool. And there's a handful. So, talking about crowdfunding, we spoke briefly about that on Monday, and you folks sort of started to think about when you would consider crowdfunding, what would be the requirements, and we talked a little bit about like there's some ideas that are half baked that you're not quite ready to crowdfund, but I want to walk you through some of the things to think about when you are crowdfunding. So you did this 2-minute exercise, and hopefully you started to think about why crowdfunding would be important. But then we started quickly to bring up some of the types of crowdfunding platforms that are out there. Some of the most popular are Kickstarter, Indiegogo. But what surprised me is some of our students brought up GoFundMe and Kiva. Kiva is sort of a micro-lending platform, and GoFundMe, I've actually yet to really explore, so we're going to explore that kind of live and do some investigation so you can see how I think of things that are new to me and how I sort of review different tools for entrepreneurship. And then the other one I wanted to share with you is Shark Tank. And we'll talk about Shark Tank and sort of all of these in the same ecosystem of crowdfunding platforms and what their values are. But first, I wanted to sort of point out Indiegogo is actually a Berkeley Haas founded crowdfunding site, and they claim that they are the first crowdfunding platform that are out there. And Danae, I believe the founder, one of the co-founders' names, she was very eager to sort of open up the world to entrepreneurship. And we think of Silicon Valley entrepreneurs today, ones that raise crazy amounts of money, try to create unicorn companies. But her vision and her team's vision is more, an entrepreneur is anybody that has an idea that they want to bring to life, right? And not everybody can get started with that, with their ideas, unless they have a little bit of upfront capital. And so that's what Indiegogo is all about. So anyway, I was really inspired by her vision. I can send a link in the show notes for a talk that she gives here at Haas School of Business with Dean Lyons. But let's go through some of these, right? So the different crowdfunding opportunities, I've tried to list them out and sort of what they do with regard to money, their benefits, and maybe some other notes, right? And Kickstarter, being the first one that I was ever exposed to and sort of saw projects on and bought projects on, so with regard to money, they require a funding goal, and typically if you don't reach that goal, you don't receive any money from your backers, and then they take 10% of whatever funding's raised. So if you raise $100,000, they'll take $10,000 from that, and you'll have $90,000 to build whatever you had hoped to build and deliver to your backers. The benefits is that it's a great source of early adopter customers. It's one of the most well-known crowdfunding platforms, and some of the major benefits of Kickstarter is that it just helps you blast your idea out. It gives you a place to host a video and talk about what you're doing, and allows you to give updates to your backers. So definitely a solid platform. It works pretty well, and I can talk to you a little bit about an experience I had with we had with Kickstarter, and they're very strict on a functional prototype. So because of the backlash of some of these projects that get launched and don't succeed, a lot of the backers have started to complain to Kickstarter that there's a lot of frauds out there, and one in particular I never received was called the Ringbow, and if you just do a quick Google search on that, you'll see some hate websites about how terrible those founders are and how they never delivered on their promise. And manufacturing and hardware is very difficult. This is why I have my PhD in mechanical engineering. I know how difficult it can be, and this is some of the challenges with kickstarting a project, right, in general, that's hardware related. So anyway, that's Kickstarter, and I'll show you a quick article about the successful failure Kickstarter experiment that we did, and I'll send a link in the show notes as well for that article if you're curious. Indiegogo, I've never done an Indiegogo myself, but from what it sounds like, if you reach your goal or your funding target. Indiegogo takes 4%. If the goal is missed, then they take 9% of whatever money you raise. Again, early adopter customers, it's a hosted platform, and the benefit there is that really you do get to take some percentage of whatever money you raise. So even if you raise $100, you can still take some money and use that to fuel your dream or your vision that you want to build. It's also, Berkeley Haas founders, so I have a kind of a different look and approach now to Indiegogo and crowdfunding, and definitely should give them a shot someday for a new concept or maybe a project that we get out of U3D it. And now I'm going to talk to you about a couple that maybe you hadn't thought about as well. Celery, trycelery.com, is a pre-sales platform. So what they allow you to do, as opposed to Kickstarter or Indiegogo, is you have your own website, it's hosted, and you are able to take pre-sales. And so you can swipe credit cards, they will hold that card. They'll put a hold on the credit card for whatever amount you're trying to pre-sell your products for, and then whenever you say that, hey, the product's ready to launch and to be sold and to be delivered, you can cash out on those credit card charges, and then you send the products to your backers, or in this case, your customers. I mean, it's really a pre-sale. So it is a sale. A delivery is expected, and I want you to just be very careful with how you deal with that. Money in your bank account and false advertising can be a really huge penalty, and there's legal ramifications to it. So when you take pre-sales, be sure that you can deliver on them. And then last but not least on this list is Shark Tank. You've probably heard of it. It's a TV show. It's Hollywood. It's how Hollywood sees venture backing in some ways, and you have these kind of four moguls, celebrities, angel investors of sorts that go and they on the fly, on live TV or live-ish TV, sort of negotiate a deal with you. It's a general consumer audience from primetime TV. I can tell you right away that when you go on these shows, they make you sign away all sorts of rights, and they can sue you for all sorts of reasons, for slander. So you want to be really careful about how you present yourself on live TV. So if you're confident with that, you can have fun with it. It could be a really huge asset to you. It could bring you a lot of attention. There was some research, quick research said that the show itself took 5% of your company. I want to say that maybe got taken away. So you need to do your own investigation on what percentage of the company they take from you, or if they take a percentage of your sales for some duration of time. It's really an opportunity for you to raise money, but also get exposure on TV if you have a kind of a B2C play. And they can make you look really silly. I mean, there's a lot of, I definitely encourage you to watch some of the old shows and to get a feel for it. I think it's also very good practice in negotiation and understanding how investors think. I do think these sharks, while a little bit Hollywood biased, they do ask tough questions, and they do want to see that you have plans to scale your business and how you're going to grow and how you're going to make sales and how you're going to be profitable. So, and also the market size and the opportunity. So that's kind of like the slide shot of kind of the different attributes to each of these crowdfunding campaigns. One example that is familiar to me because it came out of the San Francisco tech shop is Lumio. Max Gunn he has actually a really good, successful Kickstarter, but also a Shark Tank episode as well. So I encourage you to kind of Google search him and learn what he did. It's this sort of book lamp, I think it was at the time, looks like it's about $600,000 on Kickstarter, and then I don't remember exactly how much he raised on Shark Tank, but they loved his approach. They loved how hands-on he was. They loved that he went to China and figured out the manufacturing process. So definitely a good case study to look at there for Kickstarter. And this is where I wanted to point you to our blog, to the internet, and you Google search The Successful Failure, Chris D. McCoy, and I'll put this back as a show note. Kickstarter experiment. This is where you can see sort of this blog post I wrote a while back. Looks like it was 2 years ago or so. And we were trying to figure out what's the minimum amount of effort to raise $10,000 on Kickstarter. And I can tell you that you can read books by Pierre Diamandis on the X Prize, and he can tell you how much effort and time it takes to have a really successful $1 million Kickstarter campaign. So there's a very targeted and focused approach. There's also sort of the shoot from the hip and maybe you get lucky approach. Some hybrid of the two is probably what you can do in this class or in your future career as an entrepreneur. But we try to do the absolute minimal amount. And really, we spent about 40 man hours worth of work on our video. We took one shot, no editing, with the exception of adding some music to it, and then launched it. Very minimal effort on the content and the text on the site. And what's pretty cool about Kickstarter is they start giving you traction and they show you some information, so you can see graphs of how we got money raised and people backing. They show you kind of like a Google Analytics dashboard of where you're getting your users from, which is pretty cool. And then they talk to you about like pledge via Kickstarter, pledge via external refers, and the average pledge amount is this, right? So you need to think about how much you're going to charge, what are your bundles, and the different rewards you're going to offer to your varying backers, and there's some strategy behind that. You just got to make sense economically, right? As they say a lot, your unit economics have to work out, and you don't want to go in the hole by delivering a product that costs more than you actually earn from your backers. And while that sounds like, yeah, duh, that's obvious, it's easier said than done because there's a lot of things you'll forget about. This took a lot of time at the end to try to push our campaign over the $10,000 mark. You can see we didn't get there, but nevertheless, it's just it's a tricky game. So worthwhile to sort of get into. But yeah, that's kind of the crowdfunding discussion. There are other sources of funding and other ways to get input from your colleagues, your friends, your networks, and what have you. But we can save that for another discussion. So thanks for watching this short video or short-ish video on crowdfunding. Take care. See you on Monday. Bye.